Hey, my lovelies. I hope you're all safe and well. It's Mitch here. I just felt very guided to do one of my kind of questions and answers videos today. I haven't done any of these for absolutely ages, and quite a few of you guys have been asking me, can I redo one? So I thought, okay, I'll try and make some time to sort of squeeze one or two in. So one of the questions that's been sort of put forward to me is what is the hardest thing, or what's one of the hardest things as a medium? And it's a really good question, but it's a really interesting question. So I thought I wanted to try and tackle that today because I kind of think that there are a few parts and a few layers to that question. So for me, the hardest part of being a medium is not actually the connection with spirit. So that I find is quite straightforward. That's quite easy because you're either sort of listening or you're seeing the energy or you're feeling the energy and you're guided by spirit accordingly. I think for me the hardest part of about being a medium is the misplace of trust, the misplace of truth. I think that's a really hard thing to get your head around when as a medium you try so hard to hold space and to just be so ethical with your work. So it's almost like the biggest sacrifice in some ways, I think, as a medium. And what I mean by that sort of misplace of trust. So, you might do a beautiful reading, an amazing sort of demonstration night of mediumship, and you'll have all different energy lines go out basically. So even though spirit have communicated with you, you've channeled, you've passed on, you've done your mediumship, and sort of that's the point where you sort of detach almost. Then what I mean by the misplace of trust is you get all these different patterns and cycles that happen. So there will be some people that will just accept it for what it is and take it as that gift from spirit, which essentially is what any form of mediumship is about. It's a gift from spirit. Then you have this other pocket of people that are sort of like very skeptical. So they want to believe, but they're the ones that sort of feel like, oh, maybe someone's been planted in the audience. Maybe there's been trying to find things out on Facebook or Twitter, or so it's not called Twitter now, is it Meta, or social media, Instagram, whatever. So you get all of those sort of suspicious types. I've even had it before where people have actually said, when my mum's been in the audience or had a stall, I've even had it sometimes where people have said that, they think that my mum has been sort of trying to feed information back, how that would even work, because she would need to know information in the first place, which she doesn't. I mean, she's just there literally to sell my merchandise, her beaded creations. She just gets on with it and, tries to have a good time. She's part of the crew. So, but there's all these different situations, and in a way, you have to be mentally quite strong as a medium and you have to be able to laugh quite a lot of stuff off. Otherwise, it would actually send you really, really insane. We've had situations before. So there was one event where a venue insisted that I use their sort of earpiece microphone just because it was their sort of stuff. They didn't want any other sort of equipment used. You had to use theirs. This was quite a while ago now. And I was like, that's fine. So I used the earpiece mic, not a problem, and did my spirit show. Everything was cool, everything was amazing. And then at the end, I actually had people say to me that they felt information was being fed through my earpiece microphone. So you'll notice if you ever come to my own spirit magic shows, or any of the tour, you'll notice I always use a handheld microphone now for that very reason, because I thought I just don't want people thinking or trying to play detective and think that, I'm having information fed through. I'm sure there have been mediums in the past that have done that. I'm sure that that has happened. But, I don't need to do that. And I've said in many of my other videos, I don't believe in giving false hope. There's no point me telling somebody that something is there or something's about to happen if it's not. That is just pointless. There's no benefit. Nobody wins from that. Do you know what I mean? And I've said it many times in my live shows. I say it, and I don't mean it in a disrespectful or a rude way. But I actually have no real um, agenda. If I have no real sort of opinion. If people believe or don't believe. If you believe in spirit, great. If you don't, it sounds rude to say, and I don't mean it in a rude way. But I actually don't care because I know the information that spirit give me. There's no way I would know what comes out. There's just no way. I mean, I say we because I always include my sort of spirit team with that. We did a night in Wincanton the other day, and the information that was coming out, it's stuff you can't research on Facebook or social platforms. In the first instance, there was one person that came through, her dad came through, and then the uncle came through, and then all of a sudden a friend came through that had been murdered in London. And literally I felt like almost like a sword, it was a blade, cut my throat, and the essence, it didn't actually physically happen obviously to me, but it felt energetically like all of this was bleeding, like a waterfall of blood basically is what I felt. And I said that to the person, and she could completely take the message. It made complete sense. On that same night, there was also someone in the audience that, a gentleman came through. He was talking heavily about a red tie. There was this real importance about this red tie. And she said literally the day before, she'd been to a funeral and everybody in that audience, or the men, were asked to wear red ties. How would you know that? You just wouldn't, and this is what I think is so clever about the spirit world. They leave me speechless every time. Sometimes I come off stage thinking, oh my god, did I really say that? Where did that come from? And I know obviously where it comes from. It comes from spirit, but it's like, it's just really, I don't know, it's quite mind-boggling. And I even get like sort of wowed, and I think that's pretty special when, as a medium, I can even be wowed with the information that they bring through, because it's powerful. It's really, really powerful. The other thing that I find really hard going about being sort of a medium in terms of this question is like the trolling. So when you do advertising, so like for instance, this morning I put up an advert on many of the platforms for my Ilminster show that's coming up, and straight away one person was all over it, rah rah rah, getting sort of funny, getting nasty. I can't believe that these Victorian parlor tricks are still being allowed to happen in this day and age. And I just feel that's really sad that, someone is so closed off. And I did have to sort of laugh, because on this post, it sort of showed me that there we had a few mutual friends. And I clicked the mutual friends because I was interested just to see out of interest. And the mutual friends, several of them are people that have had readings. And actually, two of them have regular readings with me. And I just thought, well, that in itself just made me chuckle, because I thought, you've literally got friends that are connected with you that see me regularly. I was like, how does that work? But anyway, that aside, it's just really sad that somebody's um, belief system would be so sort of, what's the word? I don't like it how people try to sort of push and to sort of tarnish, I suppose, the essence of spirit. So just because you haven't had an experience, that doesn't make it any lesser. That doesn't make it less important. That doesn't mean it hasn't happened. Do you know what I mean? It's like, the only way I can describe it, we all live different sort of lives within the one vessel of this life. So for instance, when you think about autism or people with disabilities, not everybody lives their life like that, but there are a cluster of people that do. And so their path, their walk of life is going to be very different. The energies, the way that they experience life is going to be very different. But does it not exist just because you're not experiencing it? It still very much exists, and it's a way of life, and it's a version of how life is for some people. So spiritualism is a way of life for some people. Some people have the ability to connect, to see. Some people have had it from birth or a very young age. Some people rediscover it or re-tap into it at a later point in life. So I think it's very ignorant to sort of say it's a charlatan's game, it's fake, it's this, it's that. Just because you haven't experienced something, it doesn't mean it's not real. It doesn't mean it hasn't happened, you know? And it's frustrating as a medium. And I think it's this constant, and this is what I always say about having to be mentally quite strong, because if you're not mentally strong, seeing all of those types of comments come in, and it's always from people that have never ever seen a show. This is the thing that makes me laugh the most. And that's one thing I really have to hold on to keep my own mental health secure, I suppose. These people have never seen your work. These people are ignorant. They have never taken the time to come to a show, to book a private reading. One person said this morning that I was very, very driven by money. And it's like, again, you have to laugh it off, because just this year I've done quite a bit for charity. So we've got obviously the Guided Pause Tarot deck, which is a deck purely to raise funding for a dog charity, Somerset and Dorset Animal Rescue Dog Centre. So I'm doing that. I did literally a couple of weeks ago a charity night in Calne, Wiltshire, for charity. I give so much of my time for charity, and I always sort of feel blessed to be able to use my gifts and my ability to enrich people's life. There are times I don't publicly, put it all over Facebook, but there are many times I might gift somebody a reading because I know they need something and they're just not in a position where they can financially pay for it. So I do my fair share of stuff. So it's all these things when people try to assassinate your character and they don't even know you. We've also had it before. So sometimes I have, particularly when I do like sort of the Weston-super-Mare venues, I'll often have Dawn come along, the Energy Witch, with her stall, and she's fabulous, beautiful friend, and just a lovely, lovely soul. And I've even had it where people have said, "Oh, she's been planted," to sort of give feedback, and it's like, how? Why? There is no need to do that. So to go back to the original question of like, what's the hardest thing about being a medium? It's people. It's people, and I suppose it's the suspicious mind that we all carry. And, for me as a child, before I even understood about religion, before I even understood about spiritualism or mediumship or any of this stuff, I had this real strong feeling that when this life ends, we automatically go on to the next. That for me wasn't anything that nobody had told me. It was nothing that I had read in a book. It was just a very matter of fact feeling. And I've always felt that way. And so when people have sort of almost implied that, when you're dead, that's it, you cut off, it just stops, it just ceases to exist. That is such an alien concept to me because I've never felt that in my core ever. And then obviously as I got a little bit older and I started to see loved ones around people, as a child and start to feel spirit coming in a lot stronger, it confirmed obviously my theories. And really, when you pull into a lot of religions, regardless of what the faith is, when you pull it all back to basics, the spiritual message runs through all these different energy lines. So we're allowed to sort of, or we're encouraged to believe in an invisible God that we can't see, that we have no confirmation exists, but something that you have felt, you've seen, with a person, we know we've connected with the essence of that person, we know we've connected with the soul of that person, and yet you don't believe there's an afterlife, yet you knew the person. I find that such, for me, that's like question mark, question mark, question mark. Do you see what I mean? It just doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, so people. I always remember, I have said this sort of story before, but I think it's worth talking about again because it's just so powerful. There was a time when me and my husband went down to Weston-super-Mare and we were just having a day out down in Weston-super-Mare. And I remember it clearly. We walked into this pub and it was dead. There was nobody around, and got chatting to asked for some drinks at the bar, probably a Stella, knowing us. And like the lady, she just looked so down, she just looked so flat, and I instantly could feel her grief, her loss, her sorrow. And instantly I saw behind her her dad, and I thought, oh shit, what do I do here? And then really randomly, and I think Spirit made this happen, or I know Spirit made this happen, Paul suddenly was like, oh, we haven't put enough time on the car, we're going to get clocked. And I said, the pub's dead, shall I just wait here with the drinks while you go off and put some more money on the car? So he's like, yeah, all right. And he's like, don't do anything suspicious while I'm gone. Don't know what he means by suspicious. But anyway, so he went, and I just got chatting to this girl on the bar, and she's only sort of maybe like mid-20s, 30s, and she was just saying, "Oh, it's been such a quiet day, da 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 da." And I just thought, and it's that split second where you think, I don't know if I'm going to see this person again. And I just thought, sod it, I'm going to just say this. So I just said to this girl, I said, I hope you don't mind me saying, I said, I am a full-time spiritual medium. I said, I don't normally impose myself onto people because I know that's very against the rules. It's something that we just don't do as mediums. But I said, I've just got to tell you, I can feel your dad so strong behind you. I said, and I think he's only been gone about like 6 weeks. And I gave all this information, and you could just feel like she had been reborn right in front of my eyes. And that's the beauty of mediumship. And that's why I do the work I do, to empower, to enrich, to make somebody feel better. Now, that was a chance meeting. We didn't know we were going to go into that pub. This girl didn't know she was going to be on shift. She wasn't even meant to be working that day. She swapped her shift last minute because someone sort of phoned in sick. And sometimes spirit just align these energies, these opportunities up for us. And I actually gave her a free reading. I said, because I could feel she didn't have much money. She was in a little bit of financial problem. And I just said, here's my details. I chucked her a business card. I said, drop me a message, quote your name. I said, and I'll do you a free email reading. And I did a couple of weeks later. And she's been ever thankful since, and I know that that reading really saved her life at that time, or really played such a huge part. And yes, I gifted that from me, but the gift came from spirit. And this is, I think, why I find it so hard when there's so much sort of suspicious energy or skepticism and all of this stuff, because as a medium, I just try so hard to make people feel better than when I first found them. That's always my message, but I would never do it through being fake. And I'll be the first to say, and I've said this on demo nights and private readings and all sorts, if a person hasn't come forward that somebody wanted, I will not say they're there if I don't feel that they're there, because I can't be that person. I can't tell you something if I don't feel it firsthand. So if I feel it firsthand, amazing, great. But if I don't, I'm not going to say that it's there if it's not, because there's absolutely no point in giving false information. There are charlatans out there, of course there are, but there are also charlatans in all lines of work. And I feel sometimes people gravely forget that. Builders, hairdressers, dog groomers, there's so many charlatans in so many sort of paths and walks of life. And it's almost like, why is mediumship and spirituality always picked upon so deeper than others? And I think it's because it challenges people's fears, it challenges people's insecurities, it challenges people's belief systems. And this is why it's far easier to put somebody down than to actually think, or to expand one's consciousness or one's mind, that there could be something else. But when your whole life you've seen the other side, you can't, you can't turn your back on that. I mean, I've seen far too much, too many beautiful messages, too many beautiful experiences from spirit, to turn my back on that and to sort of pretend it like didn't happen, or it's not sort of real. It's real, it exists. And is it so bad that we go on to a better place? I honestly believe that Earth is like a sort of, at times, it can be beautiful, but I also really feel it's like a boot camp. I feel it's almost like a bit of a boot camp, and in some ways it can be like a little bit of a living hell. I really feel like there are elements of that, and I think it's preparation. We have to go through this. I think that Earth is actually the shadow side of our existence. We have to go through the shadows to be able to truly embrace the light, which is spirit. Essentially, spirit is light. And people have often said to me, have you had anything scary or anything untoward happen? And in the whole sort of 13 or 14 years that I've been doing my sort of work professionally, I think I've had like 2 negative or bad experiences with spirit, but the bulk of it way outweighs the negative. And so no, I haven't had anything dark, I haven't had anything bad or anything scary. And this is why, to answer the original question, what's the hardest part of mediumship? It's not the spirit world, it's not the afterlife, it's people, and people's mindsets and people's ways of thinking. I mean, and if anybody knew me, they know how scatty my mind is. And I mean, I can barely remember what I did like 10 minutes ago, let alone trying to withhold information, for a large audiences. I mean, and some of these venues as well, they do the tickets direct, so I have no information, or no prior knowledge of who's even coming, unless someone sort of has outright messaged me on Facebook saying, oh, I'll see you at the venue. I have no idea who's going to be there. And I make a point with my shows, I'm always backstage before the doors open. I don't want to see the people in the audience. I don't want to see the crowd beforehand. I always go off stage at the interval, and then I'm back to do the second half. So I have no interaction with the audience until the end of the night, and obviously when I'm on stage delivering for spirit. So some of these accusations, if you really think about them and stop and think about them logically, they just don't make common sense. They actually don't. But yeah, you have to laugh it off. So you have to be really, really strong mentally as a medium. It's not just about the linking with spirit and that side of it. That's an important part of it, but actually you have to be so mentally strong and so mentally at peace with who you are, because otherwise you would literally buckle under the pressure of those ideas, those thought patterns, those projections that some people put on. But I always sort of say, and I've said this many times before, unless you've come to one of my shows directly, or unless, and not just me, but mediums in general, unless you've come to one of our shows, unless you've sort of sampled the service firsthand, you don't get sort of that place to critique or judge. The only people that get that option to critique and judge my work are those that experience it firsthand. But yeah, I just wanted to leave that with you because I think it's a really, really important message. I know there are people that struggle, and there are people that want to get into mediumship and are sometimes not fully prepped on the everyday stuff, I suppose. Because to me, this is like the everyday stuff. This is not just, something you might come up with when you're in a circle. This is a big part of how it is every day, you will constantly kind of go up against different sort of ideas, different judgments, different formats, different opinions. And it only matters if you buy into it. And it only kind of becomes your truth if you accept that. And I don't accept that as my truth. I know my truth. I know who I serve, and it's spirit. And that's all there is. So, but I just wanted to sort of put that question out because it felt like a really good one, and it just felt like a really important time to answer that. So if you have any other questions that you want me to try and tackle or master, if I can, I'll have a go at doing those. So either leave them in the comments on this video or whatever, or you can message me privately. But anyway, have a cool one, look after yourselves, and more videos coming soon. Take care, lovelies. Bye for now.